COT's base of operations is right here at thecouncilofTime.com. COT has no other outlet or venue. These are other folks who will rebroadcast. Anything COT does is by the main page here at thecouncilofTime.com.
From somewhere around the world is
Mike from around the world. Mike, how you doing?
Mike, are you there? I mean, I think I freaked him out. I think I might have freaked him out completely. I don't know. Mike, are you there? Mike, are you there, Mike?
I'm using a voice assistant to convert your...
No, Mike.
Pastor Paul, can you hear me?
I hear you.
All right.
I'm sorry I was using the...
So using the alien voice.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay. No problem.
Mike, great to have you here tonight. Wow. The X-Files tonight. We, look, I just want to say for the webinar that starts tomorrow night, 6:00. You dropped so many bombs. I mean, I took notes, and Heidi said, "How'd it go with Mike?" And I said, "Heidi, my head is spinning. Where do you want me to start? I don't even know how to start. It's just incredible information." So I just want to thank you in advance before everybody hears that this weekend. I just want to thank you for being candid, honest, and sharing with us where we're at in this crazy world. Where are we at, Mike, in disclosure? Where are we in this?
I think people ought to get themselves ready. I really do. First of all, they need to realize something, right? They've been here for a long time, over 20 years, right? There have been things on this earth long before them, right? They've been safe so far. They've been safe.
Yeah.
So long as they're under the blood of the Lamb, there's a standing rule over them. So they'll be okay with that. But Pastor, there are lots of folks who are not covered by the blood of the Lamb.
Amen.
And things are coming forward. Your like your webinar disclosure. Do you not realize that everything is about to change? Everything. Just today, there's coordinated effort to alter everything, and many congressmen have jumped on board with it.
Whoa.
So people ought to get themselves ready.
Can you touch on some of that? Well,
let's just say that whether people are prepared or not, America's moving forward, and so the world's going to be opened up a bit, right? We're not going to be secluded. Do you not know there's been an active effort to keep America at least in a very boxed in time?
Yeah.
For example, our hospitals, right?
Okay.
Have you ever seen a hospital in China?
No, I don't.
Somebody ought to look up hospitals in China. Okay, I've seen one. I've had my eyes on a hospital in China. Pastor Paul, it's like walking into Star Trek. No kidding.
What?
It's just like walking into Star Trek. We are barbaric here in this nation. I can say it now because they're coming forward with so much, right? We're not going to be stuck in this time we've been stuck in.
Are you saying that the technology in China's hospitals are far better than ours?
Yes, it is past us. It is so far beyond us. In fact, here in America, it's like living in, Death Valley in tents compared to China, right? And we're not talking about. See, the propaganda has ruined people, and they have this ideology about the Chinese people and how they live and their customs and everything.
Right.
But now the truth is about to come out, right? It's not going to be what propagandists have been selling. It's just not going to be that way. We live in a very barbaric place, and everything is going to move forward. That includes what we're really living with. That's also going to come out, right?
What do you mean by that?
And this, well, disclosure is going to
Okay.
open up a can of worms
Okay.
so big, right? Let me give you an example of something. You have a lot of people in high positions. They have good minds, but they work for companies like Lockheed,
Yeah.
Skunk Works, and things like that. Lots of those folks are going to jail. No country in the world is going
What?
to have those people. No country. So it's going to be a shakeup and a shocker. People who have had their hand in this UFO business for the sake of coveting the technology, right? All that's going to be known. The cause is going to be known. And when it is known, that's going to be
It's not your
something
everyday
that will have to
work.
be straightened out.
It's not your everyday worker that's working in these companies. I mean, you're talking about
No,
you're talking about the R&D, the R&D guys, the executives,
well, let me give an example of something that, people always see these things. If anyone has ever seen them for real, it's almost close to a supernatural experience, right? You're talking about tech that does not follow our physics because they bound up our physics. So we don't understand those things. Those technologies are well understood. Let's put it that way. And they hold it back because they want to be, when you have dominion over technology these days, you also are, you're placed above everybody else, right?
yes.
So they want to be, they're part psychotic. They want to be up there with the big people. They don't want to be a little person.
I
Well,
see.
too bad for them. But the technology itself, right, requires spiritually mature individuals to function, to operate. They already knew this.
Okay.
So it requires, like a normal person, right, could not even turn the thing on. One small tidbit, they found something out in the 40s.
Okay.
And the story goes back to 1938. But they found out that these craft, these ships, had mechanical pieces, right?
Okay.
But they also had biological pieces. But the greatest component was that the pilots were part of the ship. The pilots were.
Whoa,
So
whoa.
think of your car, right? Imagine, in order for your car to work, you had to be in your car, right? And you had to somehow mentally, right, encourage your car to do what it does. Now, your car has the capability, but it has no command until somebody is inside of it. Then it draws upon the ether, right? They know what that is too. It draws upon the ether to do that. Ask yourself a question. Why in the world, with all this stuff that people hear, haven't they just jailed humanity? Think of the stories. People say, well, they want to kill us. Why haven't they killed half of humanity? What are they waiting for? Well, they want to do this. Why haven't they done it? We certainly have the machinery. We do.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
We have the machinery. We have the means to get rid of half the people on the planet in one night if we want to, in a very humane way. Why not?
So
Because they need us. Because they're
okay.
exploiting something. They're exploiting the fruit of humanity. And when people find out, they're not going to be happy. The fruit of humanity, children.
No, not children.
Children don't have children. Here's the difference between us and kids, right? When everybody was a child, they believed most things were possible. When you become an adult, you're trained to doubt things, right?
Okay.
So it actually works against your faith. If we could have teachers that would actually encourage our faith when we're young and teach us responsibly, humanity would be extremely different, right? Kids have no limitations like that. They have wild imaginations. And so they exploit abilities of children. Most children have abilities. Most do. Most of your audience knows this through their own children because their children know things they're not supposed to know. Their children utter things they're not supposed to utter, right? Their children will make corrections in their lives that can really, it sounds like the Lord was speaking through them, right? There are other kids, Pastor Paul, who have think of there are children right now who can touch a plant and it will spontaneously bud.
Are you saying there's children? Okay,
That's not
okay.
fiction. That's
No,
fact.
no. So
That's fact.
is it because? I mean, there's children with supernatural or biblical or God gifted.
I wouldn't. Well, here's the problem.
What?
And this is going to be hard to believe, but here's the
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
Those are that term supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
It's used in a way as though the standard individual does not have that ability. Everybody in your audience has that ability. That can be proven. Everybody in your audience has abilities they wouldn't believe. That can
I
be
agree with that.
so
We can
easily,
lay hands on the
right?
sick; they shall recover. So you're saying we could touch? We can do more than our. We're limit. Are you saying we're limiting our abilities? We have more
That's
in
right.
us. Okay.
Through education. Think about something. The average person walks around throughout the day telling themselves what they cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that right or wrong? They tell
That's
themselves
true.
what they can't
Yeah,
do.
that's true.
They operate by limitations. They live by limitations, right?
Yeah.
Children are not like that. They're not like that.
No.
So you have kids that don't need to use their eyes. They don't. Not to read, not to engage the world, not to play games, not to ride bikes, not to do anything. Now, when you have about 150 kids that can do this, I mean, something is up with it. You have adults that are being trained to do that. It takes a little longer because they're full of doubts, but it's real. That's real. A person can do that at home. Your body will adapt and start doing other things in the absence of, one thing. It's all by faith. It's all by belief. It's all by what a person can see themselves doing. It's all by persistence.
I believe that.
And kids have that. So these craft, right? These craft operate in a similar fashion. Not all of them, but some of them operate in a similar fashion, right? There are lots of people have been up close to them. Not all of them, because some of them you can't get close to, but they operate in the same fashion. They found out that the pilots are in tune with the ship, right? Now, the only thing that can take the place of those pilots are children.
Is it because the children are innocent, pure?
It's because they're not doubting.
Okay.
It's because they're not taught limitations, right? But it destroys children. And so I can't go any further than that.
So there's some testing.
It'll destroy them.
Okay, so there's some testing going on. There's some research going on. There may even be some testing going on that requires children involved. And you can't go any further, but it's something we need to look at. Mike,
people are going to find that out.
Okay.
It's coming out. It's coming out.
It's coming out.
Yeah,
now, Mike,
out.
the other day we recorded for the webinar, you blew my mind so many times. I mean, I made so many notes here, but you talked about cloning. Now, unbelievably, I interviewed Agent X today, and he actually was taken to one of these underground cloning laboratories, and he shares that in incredible detail. I think he's just had to get this off his chest. He can't take it.
Oh, my condolences to him.
So have you had a chance also, Mike, or I know you probably know, I know you know about it, but can you share any information, or can we even share it here on this broadcast?
It's dark. It's very dark. It's dark. It's very dark. You have a lot of missing people in the world, right?
Yeah.
Now it's the difference. It's the difference
up.
between it's for a person who believes in Christ. If they go missing, that's one thing. But if a person is uncovered, like a drug addict who's given up on everything, right? Who's renounced things, pastor, they have no idea. Had they known what their future would be, they would have gone through all levels of withdrawals gladly to alter the course of their lives. Yep, let's put it that way, because you're talking about human beings that are sustained in a type of torment. Right?
Wow.
So it's not good.
I know
Not
you.
good
I
at
know
all.
you don't know Agent X, and I know you haven't talked to him. And I mean, you are blowing my mind because you're confirming. You're
Not
confirming what
good.
he. Yeah, you know. Oh my God! And the homeless, or those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he, anybody who really knows about that subject, it is difficult to talk about. It crushes your heart. It messes with you every single day. And Lord help anybody who's ever had to see it, because it's not
Not pretty.
it's not like the movies, and it's not
No.
like any story that there's no way a person can convey the whole story. They can't convey that. Let's just say it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Folks, this is why you want to get the ticket, because Mike can't really say anymore. But this, just to understand what's really going on, what's really going on in the deepest laboratories. It's important you understand it and the reason for it. Mike, let me ask you this question. You brought up in the webinar, and you don't have to go into it a whole lot, but we talked about Sasquatch, and I know people always laugh every time we bring up Sasquatch,
Yep.
but you brought some very important information I didn't have a clue about.
Yeah. Well, the spiritual aspect or the military aspect, which one do you want?
Let's go with the spiritual aspect, okay? Because let's say the other.
You have characters in the Bible, right?
Yep.
That were hairy all over the place, and they terrified humanity. While everybody laughs at Bigfoot stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Esau's attached to their names. That's what they're referred to as. They have an Esau gene in them, you could say. And so, because they're not all the same type of things, and they have a language, right? They have a language. It is much like a chopped up Native American language. It's I know what people say they see,
Mm-hmm.
but let's just say that if one was standing still, right, and you couldn't smell it, you couldn't see it either. If it stands still, there's no way you can see it. It's almost imperceptible, though it's right there. They do hang around the shadows, right? They do watch over certain things. That's why you don't hear about a lot of people being killed by a Sasquatch unless if a person is cruel to a female and one of those things is near, they're going to find out they're real very quickly, because they will interfere quickly. They will. But yeah, they're all over the place, actually, all over the place. But again, they refer to them as having the Esau gene, right?
Yeah.
So they don't refer to them as Gigantopithecus or something like that. It's more of a person, people, just these big people.
Yeah, folks, when you listen to the webinar, you'll find out Mike will go into he'll go into serious detail on this subject, and you'll understand a whole lot better about this subject. All right, Mike, let me ask you this question. Just for a minute, we'll pivot away from the X-Files, and let's talk a little bit about what's going on in our world today that we can see. There's two things happening.
Like that volcano that just erupted.
Okay, tell us about that.
Luatobi.
Yeah.
That's a bad one. I believe it capped at 52,000 feet. It blew its top at 52,000 feet.
That's huge. That's huge, Mike. And we've been waiting on. That one kind of come out of nowhere though, didn't it?
Yeah, that one's somewhat expected. It's in the chain in Indonesia. And it scorched some few square miles. I believe it shot its plume up to about 53,000 feet. And that was a big one.
I mean, the fire from it was incredible. Just
it was loud. One of the biggest events was the sound of that thing, because you're talking about this happened not too long ago, And so it's going, and some more are in the makings. Our world is going to alter a bit. Hope that folks are ready for that too, because we're past the point of containment as far as all these caverns and these big lava tubes in the earth. They're bursting at the seams. Texas is about to have another problem. I don't know what they're going to do in that place in Texas, because they're sitting on top of some dangerous stuff.
So this Kilauea earthquake, I mean, this Kilauea volcano in Hawaii, I mean, they said the hot lava went 700 feet in the air. The ash went as what, 52,000 feet or whatever.
Is that Kilauea? Look up this one. Look up LEW OTOBI.
Hang on a second. LEW. Wait a minute.
Hopefully I spelled that right.
Give me a second. LEW.
Forgive me if I did not. LEWOTOBI.
OTOBI. You're right. Indonesia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you want to talk about that one? Okay, let's talk about that one. So that one, 52,000 feet, 53,000 feet into the air, the volcanic ash, just a few hours ago.
It was loud.
That's loud. It was huge, and they didn't expect it to come. I mean, they've been watching some of the others. Like they've been watching that one up there at Mount Sur or whatever it is, up there in is that Washington? No, Anchorage, over by Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah. Well, it's a few of them up there, and Washington State.
So, what do you think about this one in Indonesia? I mean, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, it's not done. Indonesia is about to become incredibly active, which causes me to worry about Australia, believe it or not.
Really?
Because Australia is sitting in a hot zone, what's called a hot zone, and it could very easily become unstable. We're going to see some crustal displacement here soon. We're in that time.
They were so afraid of this one in Indonesia, folks. They thought there was going to be a tsunami. Okay, and I think that's going to pass, or at least if there is some.
It was a big one. Yeah, it was a big one. But there will be more. Listen, if we have a binary system, Pastor Paul,
mm-hmm.
we're going to face the effects of this, and of all that turbulence, you could say, interacting with this planet, whatever people want to call it. And so we're going to have cracks and fissures and all sorts of things opening up. Italy right now has upped the ante in their preparedness. So they're going to start evacuations probably. So they've already planned some things out. They have a special council for that. So they're going to handle this
let's talk
in a pretty emerging way.
Okay, you mentioned crustal displacement. Tell folks a little bit about what you mean by crustal displacement. We've talked before, but it's been a while.
As magma, which is in lots of places on the earth, as it begins to energize or get hotter, right? All it has to do is get hotter. It will begin to swell, right? It'll be under lots of pressure. And due to some of the oceans that we have within the earth also, this is going to cause the crust, the top layers of the crust, to actually begin to push apart. They'll physically push apart. Now, keep this in mind, because I don't like, how they say it was one continent in the past. Everybody forgive me for this, but that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. And the reason why is because if you take the water off the earth, this is one big rock.
Okay.
It's not like it's water underneath all the continents. That's why I don't like that.
Oh, I see.
That just doesn't make sense. The more fitting idea does not follow evolution. It follows some of the catastrophes that we've had on the earth in the past that we'll have again. And because there are too many documented writings of people who saw mountain ranges form overnight, not millions of years, which could explain why at the top of the Appalachian Mountains and up there at the peaks of the Grand Canyons, you find the exact same seashells that are in Arizona.
Right? Are you serious?
Yeah, because you had a massive uplift, an instant massive uplift. And so you find sea life, right, at the tops of those mountains. the same as in Arizona, right? So it's the same stuff. In fact, all over the earth, you can actually date, or at least see what happened in the ancient world by that method. All you have to do is match these tiny fossils from, the tops of mountains to any other surrounding area. Then you had a massive uplift, right? That seems to be common
Wow.
here in the USA. Here in the USA, we see on most continents. So that's why I don't agree with this one big continent theory thing. That's
I see.
foolishness. Because the ocean is simply water that settles into the basins
Yes.
where it can. That's all it is. And absent the water, this is one big rock, right?
So you're saying
one big
it's not,
continent.
it's actually one big continent, just the water finds it's
There you go.
the
There you
path
go.
of least resistance. And so,
There you go.
Yeah,
So when they say it all, when they say it all fits together, if you have sand, if you have sand in a cup and you pour water down the middle, of course it's going to carve out a path in the middle, right? So there you are. They know it was they know that the story of Noah was absolutely 100% real.
Yeah, they know. They know.
I had a question when I was small. I was like, well, if these fossils are found, underneath the dirt, where's the fossil of a giraffe or a deer or one of today's horses?
Why can't
Where
we
those
find
fossils
those?
at, right? Where are those at? Why only in the past at that specific time when giraffe had been around for a long time, right? So they lied and came up with their stuff, but then Mount St. Helens happened. And when Mount St. Helens happened, the water, remember the water that just flowed down there and all that mud settled on top of the land and everything else? Well, guess what happened a year later? Fossils were found in the earth after 1 year, not 1,000 or 10,000 or 1,000,000 years, 1 year.
Wow.
Fossils of deer, foxes, people's pets, the fossils. Trees were fossilized. So as it turns out, it takes water, it takes pressure, and it takes dirt. Then you create a fossil.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, that same thing indicates that some of these catastrophes happen instantly in the past.
Let me
So
ask.
that throws a timeline off
Yeah,
for a
it
lot of
does.
these,
Let's talk
evolutionists.
Let's talk about tech. You brought up Texas there, and then I was going another direction real fast. But let's go back to Texas. What is it you saw about Texas?
Ambassador, Texas has two burning holes, two very deep burning holes, right? The locations are, well, they're somewhat centered, but they're so hot. It's not like you can look over down into them. They've been burning for a long time. One of them, an incineration plant was stuck over the top of them, right? So a military base was actually put up around one of these holes. There are also pipelines. There are tons of pipelines in Texas. Think of how long they've been, doing the oil business in Texas, right?
Yeah.
They have a transport system in Texas going out to the Gulf. But bad place to put this stuff because the Gulf is unstable. And remember the oil spill I was talking about?
Yeah.
We're going to have an oil spill. And when that starts, well, we're going to find out. But Texas is going to begin to ignite in these areas because there's magma below Texas. And every single year is coming up closer and closer and closer. The Army Corps of Engineers can't do anything about it due to the vastness of that chamber, right? So it's bad situation. Once it hits the gas, these gas cavities and the pipeline system that they have down there, that's just not going to be a good day. And that feeds most of the USA. It transports a lot from Texas all the way up to Canada and back again. So you're talking about a major piping system that's full of natural gas, oil, and if magma hits that infrastructure, it's game over. What are they going? You can't lock that down, right?
No.
There's too many blow points there that would just tear that place up.
Does Louisiana have some of that also? I mean,
yeah, they do, and not to mention the nuclear power plants that are also following some of these pipelines. When they first started putting these things up, right? Normally they do a geological survey. We didn't know enough, and so as humanity, right, ambitious, we began to build places or structures in places where we shouldn't have. Like Chernobyl.
Yeah.
But Chernobyl's not over yet. Chernobyl's about to activate again. They can only stop the radiation for so long. That radiation has eaten through the concrete. Right. So all the borite and all the materials they put there is not going to last.
It won't matter.
It's going to continue to be that way for about 500 more years, and it's going to continue to eat through everything. That radiation will start to spoil Europe.
Is the same thing in Fukushima? I mean, do we have the same kind of scenario?
Yeah, same kind of scenario in Fukushima. Fukushima has actually, they try to make it melt it down straight down into the earth. The best thing they can do is just wait and react to whatever starts happening, but they still have a radiation leak, right?
Right.
They have and they're sitting on top of a system of volcanoes that is. Boy, that's just not a good place to be.
No.
So we're going to see the eventuality of this. You know what? This year is going to be a very different year. It's going to be a very different year, very revealing year.
Yep.
You can almost feel the tension in the earth itself. You can almost feel it, and it's coming though. But you got to realize also we have millions of people who are coordinating to do demonstrations. We have hundreds of thousands of people who continue to talk about violent demonstrations here in the USA. This summer could be an ignition point for, what's going to consume our attention away from other things. That's, 9/11 hit the exact time they were about to have UFO disclosure the next day.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
9/11 hit.
Let me ask you
and
this.
So now we're back
ahead.
doing it again, right?
Yeah,
we're back doing it again.
Okay, so we have Israel making their move on Gaza. We have President Trump working very closely with now the Russians and the Ukrainians trying to put together.
And the Ukraine, did you see what they did?
No, tell me.
Are you aware of what they did? Oh, my Lord. They're going after the nuclear bombers of Russia. Right after he talked to Trump.
Right after they talked about it?
Zelensky is I can't be candid about that guy. Everybody has to come to their own conclusion, but he's gonna cause some real problems.
Are you saying he don't want peace? He wants to keep this thing going?
Peace. If he has peace, what does he gain?
He doesn't.
What is he going to gain? That guy, right, is fully bought.
Yeah.
He is fully purchased.
Yeah.
He's fully purchased, and he is a stubborn. This guy is a living rock. He's very stubborn. He's in my opinion, he's
corrupt.
Untrustworthy.
He's corrupt.
Yes, very much so. See, I couldn't say anything like that back in the day because everybody thought they were sympathetic to the Ukrainian cause due to, propaganda. But things are different now, and people are about to see what they didn't want to see. But that guy is brick-headed.
Yes.
Is that terrible to say?
No, it's not brick-headed. It's
stubborn.
Not terrible. I mean, look, he as long as the war keeps going and he can keep getting funds coming in from either the United States or the Europeans, he can keep peeling off what he needs to. And that's been, look, before the war even started, he and his business partner, which was that film producer, they had already set up shell companies. They were already robbing the Ukrainian government. This isn't new. This is corrupt to the. And so the war is just giving him more to grab, Yeah.
His telephone conversations, some of them are up for review. Nobody would like that guy if they heard his telephone conversations. He is somewhat ruthless, and he cares about himself.
Yeah.
He's going to make sure that he is okay. This guy he's going to cause bad problems.
He's almost caused World War III.
Well, you can't provoke Russia, and you certainly don't go after their nuclear bombers. You don't do that. That's ridiculous.
So you're saying, even though Trump is doing everything he can to try to bring this thing to a peaceful conclusion, because he hates war and he hates people being killed, you're saying we still got a long way to go. As long as
Well,
Zelensky, let me ask you this: as long as Zelensky is walking above ground, is it going to be difficult to make a deal?
yeah, because he's much like Hamas. Everybody thought Hamas was going to make some sort of a deal. Remember, I told you Hamas
Yeah,
doesn't
you
make
did.
deals like that,
Yeah,
right?
you
They're going to
told me.
lie straight to people's faces, and so he's similar to that. In the White House, when he was talking to Trump, he was on national television, very dismissive in the
Yes, he
Oval
was.
Office.
Yes, he
He
was.
was a smart aleck. I mean, just immature smart aleck.
Yes.
And that should have showed people what he's willing to do for his whatever cause he's following. But I'll say it again, to hear, because they're going to publish some of the phone conversations with this guy.
When they do,
They're not going to like, they're going to find out who he is. They're going to find out who he is. It's very difficult to have a comment on anybody when nobody has heard them. So
right.
when that story is out, I think that people will come around and see finally. Because I'll tell you what, Pastor, we're in a day right now where people are becoming quite aggressive to the extreme, and it's getting worse. But there's a supernatural element that you better watch out for. We're not exactly in times where we're going to go back to the cowboy days and have a little, these are transition times. These are transition years, and we just don't have that much time left.
Okay, now let's shift to the Middle East a minute, because obviously Trump kept warning Hamas, you better let these hostages go. You better do this. I'm running out of patience. Hell fire is about ready to fall on you. You better do this. You need to do this. Has he given Netanyahu the green light and said, go ahead and do what you got to do? What's happening here?
Yeah, he's not going to go against Israel to protect itself. Remember something, Hamas is still attempting to take people. They're still raping people. See, they just don't, they're not telling the story of what Hamas is actively engaged in. Pastor, they're doing things worse than October 7th. Okay, so Benjamin Netanyahu is not going to let up in what he's doing.
No, he has to take these guys out.
Hamas is an ideology, right? Yeah. So here's rule number one. In truth, you cannot destroy Hamas, because Hamas is an ideology.
Wow.
And anybody who is subservient to that ideology is then Hamas. So you could kill everybody in Hamas, right? Yep. They would only create a larger army.
More will just rise up. More will rise up.
Because you have kids right now who are incredibly infuriated at the U.S. because all they saw was Israel and the USA kill their parents. They didn't know what their parents were doing. So you could say that all those people who died are now martyrs in the eyes of their children. Their children are willing to put on explosive vests and do everything because one actually did something. Now, they didn't report the age of the person. They're not going to do that. But scan the news carefully, and you'll see it yourself. You'll see it yourself.
Oh my God.
Their kids becoming, they're doing the ultimate thing. And we have them here in the USA too. Don't think they've went away. They just are quiet because they know Trump is in power. And but they're here in the USA. You have people that are Americans who have totally turned their back on America.
I know.
I don't get that.
That hurts.
I don't get it.
That hurts. Okay, what about the plane that was on its way to El Salvador mid flight, and the judge wanted to stop it?
He's upset. He wants an answer by morning from
I don't care what he wants.
members.
Is that what he wants?
Yeah, that's what he wants.
Well, I'd say put him on a plane.
But here's the deal, though. What's he going to do? What's he going to do?
Well, put him on
what's he going to do?
Put him
if
on
he
a
doesn't
plane.
get an answer.
Put him on a plane and ship him to El Salvador, and then he can go over there and talk to those folks and ask them how many of them really like America, because I don't think any of them do. I mean, this guy, which side is he on? My question, I guess, to you is, Mike, which side is this judge on? Who is this guy?
You have guilty folks and you have innocent folks. Here's what I mean. You have some folks who don't really know the whole story. And so they are loyal to whatever they're loyal to, right? And they believe they're bosses. but you have very corrupt individuals who are protecting other individuals. The truth is, there's some other stories coming out, and when they do, it's going to cause a firestorm, right? Because there are lots of people who had they were doing things they shouldn't have.
Yeah, on both sides.
They were doing that.
Yeah.
They were taking money. We're talking about large amounts of money. They didn't care about the people. They cared about themselves. There are people right now scrambling. You have people. I guarantee you, by the end of next month, at least 73 individuals will have left the country. There's an exodus happening right now.
Are you talking about Rosie O'Donnell?
They can't stay here. They can't. No, not. Well, people like her. There are others, but they can't stay here. They can't stay in America because their story is coming out. Right? We're not talking about complacency. We're talking about activism, what they were involved with. Their story is coming out, and the people are not going to like that. So when all this stuff surfaces, that's when everybody is going to begin to sober up.
So
right?
You're saying
but even in those times, we have to be cautious and careful. I'll tell you why. Okay. There's an influence in the earth right now. It's in the earth, and it's taken over everything. It's almost like somebody watching a wave, and hardly anybody can see it, and it's consuming everything. Right? This is a very dark thing that's sweeping the earth right now. These are unbelievable days.
What about Turkey? What about Turkey? What about Erdogan throwing the arrest?
Turkey's going to do exactly what we talked about 5 years ago.
Okay.
Exactly. They are untrustworthy, just like Jordan. Yeah. And Saudi Arabia is not going to be, they're going to be wiped off the face of the earth. Saudi Arabia, they will be.
Wow.
They're going to move there's a big battle that will soon begin. Trump is in power, right?
Right.
He's in power, so he's going to empower those who have a different idea about the Middle East.
Yes.
That's underway right now.
Yes.
And there we are. So when that happens, that's in many eyes, that's going to be unforgiving, right? It's going to be unforgiving.
Wow. So you're saying that's what's partly why Saudi Arabia will come under a massive attack, because they have the Black Stone. They're in control of Islam. And of course, the Iranians don't like that. The Shiites don't like that the Sunnis are really basically in control of Islam. So is that what you're saying? And Trump is siding with Saudi Arabia. So are you saying that that's going to cause a backwash?
They have a habit. They have a habit of double talking, right? So they can't befriend the USA and then turn around and betray the USA and befriend it again.
Right.
If that happens, and it will, they're going to be cut off from the USA, and they're going to have no protection from their enemies. That's why they're trying to amass an army right now. They've
Saudi
been doing
Arabia
that for the last 5 years? This is the 5th year. Yes.
Wow.
They're amassing a pretty big army. So things are setting up.
Yeah. For a bigger, broader war than what we have at this moment.
Yeah, I think it just won't be containable here shortly. That's what I think. You can only suppress people for so long. Iran is desperate, right? They're desperate. They feel like they're forced to the wall. They're desperate. You have people like the Houthis. Those individuals in the Houthis, they have access to Pakistan. Do you know what that means? That's why they're talking tough.
That's bad because
that's why they're talking tough.
Yeah, Erdogan. Okay, so Erdogan has went out, folks. Has arrested the mayor of Istanbul and a couple other mayors because this guy was going to run for president against Erdogan. Erdogan is basically a dictator. Matter of fact, he even thinks he's the divine one. He thinks he's the guy that's going to lead the caliphate. Am I right, Mike?
Yeah.
So his ideology is beyond political. He's way past political. He believes whatever he needs to do to stay in power because he's Allah's guy, right?
Yeah.
This is going to cause a massive problem in the Middle East and in the world because he's got nukes. This guy's got nukes.
And you know who's target number one, right?
Probably us.
We are. That's right. We are.
I wonder what Trump's going to do with this today. What's Trump going to do with this guy in Turkey? What's he going to do with Erdogan?
He's going to have no choice. Well, they're going to be refaced. There's going to be an automatic response, and Israel is going to be the only place that won't be touched.
It's actually in the Bible. I mean, it's the Gog and Magog.
It is. And you know what's so amazing in the Bible is there's a specific job after a nuclear war where somebody is hired to go, and they go to where bodies are marked with a NBC sign, right? Nuclear, biological, chemical sign. They go and put the body in a special bag. That's in the Bible. That many will go out, they'll be hired for this special job to take these bodies and weapons and put them in special bags and carry them to a special place. That's a radioactive body. That's a radioactive body.
Ezekiel 39.
And,
that's
Ezekiel going 39. To happen. Yep, that's going to happen.
Says,
when that takes place, it's...
Mike, it says that it takes 7 months to bury the dead and 7 years to get rid of the weapons that are going to be in this battle. And even after the 7 months, they won't have all the dead. They'll keep finding bodies, and they're going to hire people to come in to bury them. I guess because they're radioactive, maybe. I don't know.
That's right.
It's in the Bible, folks.
And the words, that sign, the sign I'm talking about, is specifically used in those passages. And ironically, if we had a nuclear problem, right, it takes 7 years. 7 years to especially contain the graphite and other, forms that can house radiation. It takes 7 years to deactivate that surface radiation to get it under control. 7 years. Nobody can go back into a place until 7 years is up. That's how long it takes. So that's something else. And then Putin just moved a lot of those nuclear weapons. And then people are finding out that the Houthis have access to Pakistan. And India has to be vigilant. They have to be vigilant because there's talk now about India being usurped. So President Trump will establish a stronger relationship with India. You're talking about nuclear powers. So the USA can't afford for those nuclear powers to come under somebody else's control.
And Mike, you brought up such a great prophecy, and I'm just going to read just a few verses that tells us about it. It's Ezekiel chapter 39, okay? Because you always hear about the Ezekiel 38 war, but you need to know what the rest of the story is in Ezekiel 39. I'll just read a little bit. It says in verse 9, and they shall dwell in the cities of Israel, shall go forth, and shall set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and the bucklers and the bows and the arrows and the hand staves and the spears, and they shall burn them with fire 7 years, so that they shall take no wood out of the field, neither cut down any of the forest. For they shall burn the weapons with the fire, and they shall spoil those that spoil them, and rob those that rob them, saith the Lord God. Mm-hmm. And it shall come to pass that in that day that I will give unto Gog a place there of graves in Israel, and the valley of the passengers on the east of the sea, and it shall stop the noses. They'll stop the noses of the passengers. It stinks so bad. And they shall... And there shall they bury Gog and all of his multitude, and they shall call in the valley of Hamanagog. And 7 months shall the house of Israel be burying them, that they may cleanse the land. Yea, and all the people of the land shall bury them, and it shall be to them a renown, a day that I shall be glorified, saith the Lord. And they shall sever out men of continual employment, passing through the land, to bury with the passengers those that remain on the face of the earth, to cleanse it. After the end of the 7 months shall they search. So in other words, all of Israel's going to have to go and bury people for 7 months. And
it's a lot of employment.
And then when they're done, they got to hire contractors to come in and bury the rest of it.
That's astounding in there, right?
It's in
there. That's astounding. It's in there.
It's in there. And you know that has to be from nuclear fallout. Is that what you're saying, Mike?
Yep. Oh, yeah. And that's radiation. It's radiation.
Radiation.
And so And the way the Middle East looks right now, my goodness. So, it kind of reminds me of I was going to tell you about just a block of vigilance that I want people to consider something.
Okay.
I never
great.
made this request, but I want people to consider them being without power for about a week
Okay. Talk to us.
in America. Yeah, they probably need to consider that, being without power
May I ask
about a
why?
week.
Why would we?
Well, there's how events form. It's kind of difficult to explain, but events form, and there's always that moment where something doesn't go right, right? America's moving forward. There's old infrastructure because thieves made the equipment not to last, but to fail, right? So that makes that equipment non-usable. It's just made to fail.
Let's listen.
There's
folks.
also
Go ahead, Mike.
there's also there's going to be a bottleneck because power usage right now is running over 100% in the country, and it's not summer yet. That means with how the grid is set up now, the entire grid is fully networked. And because it's fully networked, there's going to be power management for the whole USA. Okay, we also have issues with export and imports of, some of the power transmissions. All that's changing. To be self-sufficient with power, if we're going to use our own power, we're going to have to stop depending on everybody else. In order to do that, we have to build up certain aspects or certain parts of our power systems and stations. Well, that means we're going to have to maintain some areas are going to have to maintain pretty level usage for about a week, right? While they're installing some of the higher transmission systems and network equipment. So that means some people can be without power or certainly have interruptions in power for a week, but we have two storms forming, right? Again, I said this a week and a half ago, so I'll say it again. We have two storms forming that one is worse than this one, it looks like. And if that comes through again, we can only take so much damage on our infrastructure. We're really, insurance companies are no longer covering people for insurance. This is how bad things are. This is how much money these storms have cost. There's no way we can endure another summer full of this same type damage. We cannot take it. It's really going to cause some setbacks. So people ought to get ready for that, right? Be ready for anything, but specifically be ready for a power outage for at least a week.
Now,
At
folks,
least
let
a
me
week.
let me say why you should listen closely to what Mike just said. Because 5 years ago, he said, "Hey, Pastor Paul, there's a day coming that there's going to be a storm. Storms are going to start coming in that are going to cover the entire country." And I thought he was nuts. I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I mean, storms that are going to come ashore. They're going to come, and they'll go and they'll cover the entire country." And you said that 5 years ago, and you've said that several times after that, just as a reminder. And then last week we had a storm come ashore, come in, bringing rain, mudslides, snow, sleet, extreme straight line winds, tornadoes, dust storms, wildfires. And it went all the way from the east, from the west coast, all the way to the east. Floods, lightning strikes, hail, everything. It was exactly what you said. That was the first one. It took 5 years. You said it. It was coming. And I take it now that's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. So you're saying get ready. Americans, get ready to spend about a week without power. And so people probably should start preparing with some generators and have some extra water and food and some things. If you had to go a week without power, what would you do? You're not going down. If you live in a skyscraper in one of the major cities, think you're going to go down out of the apartment, go down to the local 7-Eleven. It's not going to happen. You're going to, okay, if you live out wherever you live, you should ask yourself, what if it had to go at least a week? Am I ready? Is that what you're saying, Mike?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Out there, people do that. And that will really, because if we're prepared for things like that,
Yeah.
we can always be of help to somebody else.
Yep.
And wouldn't that be the major point, that
Yes,
we're
it would.
always in a position to assist somebody else?
Yes.
That'd be a
Mike,
good thing.
this is some good advice to us. And why I'm bringing this up again is because there's so many times over the last 12 years or so that you and I have been doing these Thursday night broadcasts and live broadcasting and all these webinars. You've always been a part of them. There's so many times you said, hey, I want to prepare you, church. I want you guys to know that this is coming, that this is coming, that this is coming. And time after time after time after time, 130 mile an hour straight line winds, horrible hurricanes, worse tornadoes. These are just some of those things, not counting everything else you've brought up over the years that say, hey, look for this. This is going to happen. You always give us enough time. You always give us a few months or usually 2-3 years advance notice. But then here it comes. And so for those of you who are skeptics, and there are some who don't, just say, I don't know, Begley's always talking about this and Mike's always talking about that. How many times the things we've talked about have come to pass? Where are the skeptics when the things actually happen and come to pass? They scatter. They're gone. They're running somewhere else because all they are is skeptics. We're not here to give you fear. We're here to warn you. Is there a difference, Mike, between warning people than fear-mongering? We're not fear-mongering.
Absolutely.
We're warning people. Mike, you've been doing this a long time. Are we warning people?
That's right. And I tell you what, some of these things, it takes years to prepare.
That's why you're saying it early.
It takes years to prepare. It takes years to accept it. When these things come about, some of the folks who actually took it to heart, because you don't have to, cut yourself off from life and go live in a ditch or something like that.
No.
But to be mentally prepared for something like a simple tornado. Like a tornado. You can have a neighbor that will say, no tornado will ever touch, my house. And then one day when it touches their house, it's going to devastate their entire world, right? But you can have another person who says, it might hit. So let me get this ready and this ready and this ready. And sure enough, both their houses are hit. But the one who was mentally prepared, they can still walk forward and say, okay, it hit. Well, let's pick up the pieces from here and keep going forward. Those are the people with good joy in their hearts after a tornado.
Amen.
But the other ones fall completely apart. They're mad and angry at everybody. They blame everybody. They're bitter and everything else. They just totally fall apart.
Yeah.
And this isn't the right time for that.
No, Heidi this week, Mike, had 2 different friends. One friend, she had a tornado came this week, destroyed the neighbors all around her, but of her daughter. It was her daughter's home, but it didn't touch the daughter's home. Yesterday, a tornado hit in Delphi, Indiana, which is only about 15 miles from my home in Indiana. Uh-huh. It destroyed an entire street. It did a lot of damage in Delphi, Indiana. But there was a friend of ours, her daughter's house was the only house that did not touch.
I see that.
Heidi's been praying, and both these girls that didn't touch their homes were members, as children, they were part of what Heidi calls our Rachel's Heart family. In other words, people that we pray for and pray for their children and their children's children. We call them the Rachel's Heart children. And both their homes were spared, their families were spared, because they were covered by the blood of Jesus Christ. 2 different houses, 2 different states, but it's the same blood, the blood of Christ. And this is why we give people warnings and give you advance notice. Things are coming, so you might as well prepare and pray. And Psalms 91 is so important. How many times have we said it? Psalms 91, plead the blood of, get under the shadow of the Almighty. Mike is bringing the warning. I mean, look, if we don't warn you, God requires, Mike, stuff that
He does.
That we got to know. And God will require the blood on your hands. He'll require the blood on my hands.
Yeah.
But he
And
won't.
it's not easy either.
No.
Sometimes, because you sound like
An idiot.
or a moron.
or a
You do, you do.
moron, or
You do.
or a
You do.
fearmonger, and they call us all
But I'll
kinds
tell
of
you
stuff.
something. Yeah, I'll tell you something, Pastor. What broke me of that was I saw the consequences of someone not saying anything.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be that person.
No, I don't want to be that.
I won't, because I know that at some point people are going to face it. I'm not concerned about what they say right now. I'm concerned about them being prepared.
Amen.
Right? They can laugh, joke, and do everything else. But if they're prepared, most importantly, if their souls are prepared
Amen.
and in alignment.
Uh-oh. Mike doesn't care. There he goes. Most important, he said, is that their souls are in alignment with God. And that's the question. Thank you, Mike, so much. I'm sorry you just, apparently the government said you've had enough.